Hi, everybody. So this is going to be a very straightforward tutorial on how to use Premiere Pro for just really basic video editing, which will get you through your first project. And I'll be making another video here that'll be more advanced things like special effects and all kinds of stuff. So how do you, put like different effects over video and audio and things like that. First of all, what I have here are several videos in a folder. um, you can see some of them are .mov, some of them are MP4s. That's just fine. These are from different cameras, so that's why they have different extensions. Doesn't really matter what that is. Whatever your camera is set to or your phone is set to is just fine. That said, you want to go into your video, your camera settings in your phone if you're using your phone, or if you're using like an SLR camera or like a point and shoot. Go into the settings in the camera and go into your video settings and make sure that you are shooting in HD video. So you probably want to pick something like 1080p if that is an option. It's going to be like 1920 by 1080 pixels. It might also be called. If you can record in 4K, which is like Ultra HD, you can try it, but it's going to be a lot bigger. The file is going to be really big, and Premiere Pro might have a problem with it unless your computer is very, very fast. So 1080p is great. 720p is also good. It's also HD. It's just a little lower quality. So anyway, that said, you want to do that with your inside of your camera or your phone before you record your videos. Also, be sure that all of your videos are recorded in horizontal format. So when I double click this is not like if you're using your cell phone, turn it sideways. This is how professional video looks. It is horizontal. It is landscape. It is never, if you hold your phone upright and you get a vertical video, it's not going to look good. It might look okay on a phone, but every other thing that you look at, that you're going to watch this video on is going to look bad. So basically, we don't want to have all these black bars on the left and right, which would happen if this were a video that was recorded vertically. So there's that. Again, when you double click on any of these videos, they're going to open and you can kind of see what they are. It's going to open in QuickTime. You can play the video. But just like, just like a JPEG on your computer, if you double click, it's going to open not in Photoshop. It's just going to open up in like a preview or some other kind of app where you really can't edit it. The same thing happens with video. So we can open videos up and watch them, but we're going to actually need to import them into Premiere to actually edit them. So I have Premiere Pro right down here. I'm going to click on that. It's going to take a minute to load. There's a lot of stuff going on with Premiere Pro here. A lot of things need to load, a lot of plugins and whatnot. So especially if it's your first time using it, you just have to be patient. I probably should have started that before I was talking and let it. This thing could have been going the whole time, but here we are. So again, it's loading a bunch of things. In the meantime, you just have to make sure that all your videos are on your computer. You can't really work with them while they're still on your phone or camera or whatever. So you're going to have to share them, to Google Drive and download them to your computer that way, or plug your phone into your computer and get the videos off of your phone like that. If you are using a Mac computer and you have an iPhone, Great. Plug your iPhone right into your computer with the USB cord. It's going to open it up almost, a program is probably going to open up and ask you if you want to import photos and video, and you can just follow the instructions. If you're using an Android phone, you cannot do that on a Mac. So if you plug your Android phone into a Mac, it will charge your phone, but there's no way it will open it up and let you see the files on there. So you're going to have to get them off of there some other way. All right, so when you first open up Premiere, there might be like this little video that pops up that's, it's kind of like a preview thing because it thinks, it's the first time you've opened it. You might have to, somewhere at the bottom right, maybe there's a skip button. We want to get to this point where we can just create a new project. So I'm going to click on New Project, and basically all of these settings here, you don't need to worry about that. Just name your new project. I'm just going to name this Tutorial. We don't need to worry about any of this stuff. All of the settings here are exactly what they need to be. Most of them don't apply anyway. So we're just going to click OK. And here is the Premiere Pro interface. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? There's like all these different windows. There's this one here, this. The toolbar is its own little thing, and then this little thing here. Of course, if you want to learn the basics, there's a bunch of tutorials built right in. I'm going to just get rid of this because it's taking up some room. So right here, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to close this panel. And now I have more room for everything else. So first of all, we don't have anything here. It kind of tells you what you need to do. You need to import your media to start. And then we're going to need to drag our video over here to begin to edit it. So basically, if you have a window open, you could drag your video directly into here from a window. And this is the same on a PC or a Mac. Obviously, this is a Mac I'm using right now, a Mac laptop. But I do all of my video editing at home on a PC. And Premiere Pro is the same on both platforms. Doesn't really matter. The same thing applies. Otherwise, you could just double click here and it's going to open up a window and let you import your videos. So I'm just going to double click here. I'm in Documents now, but I know my videos are on my desktop. And here are my sample videos. And there they all are. So I'm just going to select them all. You could hit Command A, or if you're on a PC, Control A. That will select all of your videos, and then we're going to import them. And again, even though there are different file types, that doesn't really matter. Premiere Pro should recognize, and you should be able to use any file from any source, really. So here we are, this little window down here. This is like your palette. This is where all of your videos are before you start to use them. First of all, it's going to show you what the name of the video is. If you mouse over it, a little box pops up and tells you what the other information is. Like this one is 1920 by 1080. That's the 1080p I mentioned before. It is exactly 36 seconds long. So these numbers here are a little confusing. This is a 36-second video. This is a 10-minute, 5-second, and 12-frame long video. This last little section here is not milliseconds or anything like that. That represents the number of frames. So digital video and even, old school film is made up of separate frames. The video, basically, digital video is usually about 30 frames per second, or technically 29.97 frames per second. So just about 30 frames per second. So basically you have 30 still images that are shooting by so quickly that there are 30 per second. Your eyes do not refresh that quickly. So it looks pretty smooth when you watch a video, even though technically you are watching a bunch of still frames go by really fast. Old school film was 24 frames per second. So, the old movies and things, they had 24 different frames per second, which is why if you kind of watch an old school film, sometimes it seems to flicker a little bit. Like there's this slight difference because it's not quite as smooth as digital video. This video, when I mouse over it, it's also 1920 by 1080, but if you notice, it says it's 23.976. That's how many frames per second. And that's because my DSLR camera can record at that frame rate, which I really like. So I have a mix and match going on here, which you'll kind of see here, what the problem might be with that here later. But basically, if you double click on one of these little thumbnails, it's going to show up here. This is your sort of preview where you can actually see your video before you start editing it. So if I click the little play button here, it's going to play. Of course, my audio is going to play as well. As it's playing, you can see the playhead here move, from the left to right. So you can kind of go across and kind of scrub the video and see where you're, go to any point in the video here. But this is kind of just like a preview, lets you see what's going on with your video before you use it. You can also rename your video here if you want. So, all these are just kind of generically named, but I could just click right on one time on the name of this video and name it Mountain. Just gonna hit return. And now that video is named Mountain. This does not rename your video on your computer. So if you go back to the file that has your videos, this one's not going to be called, and I wouldn't see it called Mountain at all. It's just within Premiere, it's naming. It's kind of like naming layers in Photoshop to make things easier for you. So anyway, we have all these videos here. Again, you can double click to watch them. But you have to drop media here to create your actual sequence, which is basically your canvas, for lack of a better word. So what I can do is I can take this and just drag it and drop it here. Now a bunch of other stuff shows up here. Not only do you still see the video up in the top left, you also now see it over here because this represents your actual timeline, your actual video. This is what you're going to be seeing when we start playing things down in this area. For instance, if I hit the play button here, and also the space bar will also play, pause and play your video. So here it is playing, and just like before, you can see the playhead moving across, but you're also seeing it move across here now too in your sequence. I'm going to hit the space bar. That will pause it. Hit the space bar. That will play it. And there we go. So what's going on down here in our sequence? Well, we have basically two things going on. We have video tracks and audio tracks. Think of these like layers in Photoshop. We can layer video and audio on top of each other for producing certain effects, which again I'll get to in a different video. But basically, by default, you have 3 video tracks and 3 audio tracks. Video 1, 2, and 3. Audio 1, 2, and 3. So what this is representing here, this top bar represents the video, and this bottom bar represents the audio. What's going on here, these little blips that you're seeing, this audio it's showing the wave form of that audio, and it's kind of hard to see here, but basically Every time these little light blue things blip up, that just means there's sound there that's louder than the rest of it. So you heard that bird. And if I move it back to here, you can see there's not much sound. And then right here, there's the bird. And then it gets louder over here for whatever reason. Okay, so it was just windy or something there. Anyway, that's why that's going on there. If you and you might only see one bar here because your camera might be recording in mono. This is stereo. This was a stereo camera, so that's why I'm seeing two audio tracks. If you only see one and you have mono, that's fine. So also what's going on here is this video is so long. I mean, this video, again, is 10 minutes long. You're probably not going to have anything quite that long. Like, it goes on. I have to actually, use this, whatever this is called, completely spacing the name of this, scroll bar to scroll over to see the whole thing. Like, it goes way over. But you can grab the end of this little thing here and drag it to the right, and that will zoom in, or zoom out, I'm sorry, on your video. So that will zoom out. This will zoom in to a very specific spot. But basically, if you need to kind of zoom into something, this is where you're going to do it. I kind of like, when I'm working, just to see the whole timeline, so I know where things end. But that's completely up to you. So what is going on with this video? We have our video here. And again, the playhead going along here. As you play the video, you can see this is the volume over here. So again, I have 2 green bars because it is in stereo. You might only see 1 green bar, and that's just fine. If your audio gets really loud and goes up to the top here, it's kind of in the red. That means that the volume might be a little too loud. And so your audio might sound a little weird at that point. Not a whole lot you can do about it after the fact, but at least you'll know kind of why things might sound a little weird. So the basics of video editing are, getting your videos imported, getting them into your timeline, and then getting rid of parts of the video that you don't want and putting them in the right order. And what I mean by that is, when you're recording a video, you're probably going to have a few seconds at the beginning and at the end of each video clip that you don't want, right? You start your camera, you capture what you want to capture, you stop the camera, but you probably don't want all the stuff at the beginning and the end. It's very easy to get rid of the stuff that you want. I'm sorry, to get rid of the stuff that you don't want. For instance, if I want the video to start directly, let's see, I don't know, right there, for whatever reason. Let's say I want my video to start right where this playhead is. I'm going to move the playhead directly to where I want it. You can drag the playhead, but if you need to get to a very specific spot that's hard to get to by dragging your playhead, you can use the right and left arrows on your keyboard. So this is the right arrow, and basically, if you look at what's going on here, it is going forward 1 frame at a time. So you can get to a very, very specific part of your video here. Literally, you can get it down to 1/30th of a second, because again, there are 30 frames per second. So it is super accurate. But once you get your playhead to where you want it, if you mouse over the beginning of your video or audio, it doesn't matter, because they're locked together at this point. You see this red arrow, and you basically can just drag it. Oops. Why won't it work? There we go. Drag your video over, and now the video is starting at this point. Everything that was before that is now basically gone. So when I start, I'm right exactly where I wanted to be. The same thing at the end. I can move my video, my playhead here. I can drag it over, and now the rest of that video is gone. It's not playing any faster. I haven't altered this chunk of video. It is just sitting there with the beginning and the end kind of lopped off. The cool thing about it is this is the way video editing works. If this were back in the days of film and we actually cut this chunk of film off, we'd have to splice it back on if we changed our mind later. But with digital video, you could just mouse right over the edge and you could drag it out and you could get all of that space back, all of that video before and after. Anything that you cut off, you can get back again. It is completely non-destructive. Like, there's very few things in video editing that are 100% permanent. I can't even think of anything right this second. But basically, anything that we do to video can be undone very easily. As you know, and that's over and above going to edit, undo, or Command Z, which will allow you to undo as many times as you want. I just mean that even later on in this, I could open this video, I could work on this video for 2 weeks, and I could open this, I could take this video later on and get back what I took off 2 weeks before. Like, again, it's always there. The problem is now your video starts at the beginning here. This is 0. So technically I have almost 3 minutes of just blank space now at the beginning of my video. If I were to export this to turn it in, or whatever I would need to do to get this thing into a shareable video, I would have 3 minutes of almost just nothing, just like a blank black screen. And then right at that point, the video would start. So we don't want that. We're going to basically take this, click in the blue part here, and drag it over all the way to the left. Now the video is starting right at the beginning of the sequence. You can move this around as much as you want. You could grab the audio or the video. It doesn't really matter. Oops, be careful about doing that, because you can split these apart to move them into different tracks here, which we don't need to worry about right now. But because the audio is connected to the video, they both move together. Then you could do something like, hey, I want to put another video after this. So I'm going to take this video and drag it into my timeline. Again, you can drag it here, and so they're in the video and audio one. You can put them here or here. We don't need to do any of that stuff yet. We're always just going to want it to be in this first video track and audio track. So now here's my other video, and I can move it wherever I want. Technically now I'd have this video stop, I'd have however many seconds of blank space, and then this video will start. But I'm just going to move this over. And notice when you do that, like, I get close and it wants those videos to lock together. It knows that you probably don't want any blank space in between them, and it basically wants to glue them together. Notice also what just popped up very quickly there. Premiere Pro has an autosave feature. So every 5 minutes or so, it will autosave your project. So if something completely crashes, you should be able to open Premiere Pro up and get back any of the work that you did up until the last time it auto-saved. That said, you're going to want to save this thing all the time. So I haven't saved it yet, right? I've opened this up. I've done some things. I'm just going to hit Command S, and now it's saved. We've already named it. It's already called tutorial, so it didn't ask me where I want to save it or what I want to name it. It just overwrites the last time it's saved. So basically what's going on here, and you can see, I'm going to zoom in. Look at the difference between this waveform and this waveform. So just visually, you can tell that this doesn't have a lot of volume. All of a sudden right here, this video is very loud. I had the radio on. So when it gets to that point, it's going to get much louder because you could actually see it down in that waveform. The light blue represents the video or the audio for that. The light blue, and the higher this is, the higher this light blue waveform goes up, the louder it tends to be at that point. But what we've also done is by putting one video clip right after another, you've created what's called a transition. And a transition is basically any time a video or audio clip ends and another one begins right after it. There's lots of different transitions like fading in and things like that we'll get to later. But this is what's called a cut. It is basically one video cuts to another video immediately, right? There's no black space, nothing happens. It's this, boom, it's that. That is what 99% of video editing is basically getting your videos in the right order and making sure they're, first of all, getting your videos to the right size, to the right time that you want them to be, getting rid of the stuff you don't want, and then putting them directly after each other in whichever order you want. I can tell now that I'm zoomed in that there's a little space here. So I would technically have like a second or two of black at the beginning, which I will not want. What I can do is I'm just going to click and drag a box over both of these so that they're both selected, and I can move them together. Okay, well, maybe not. Ah, there we go. Now it's letting me move it over. So now I know it's right at the beginning. So again, I could do the same thing with this video here. If I wanted to get rid of, let's say I want this to start right here. I'm going to click off so nothing is selected and click onto this. And I could do the same thing. I could just drag this over, boom. Let's say I want to end it right here for whatever reason. I can do that. And I can just move this over. And now it's going to start directly at that point, a couple seconds into that video, instead of at the very beginning of it. So again, it's pretty straightforward, left or right, right? This is the beginning, this is the end. Getting the videos into the size that you want them and then putting them in the right order. If I wanted to move these things around, let's say I'd want this one first, I'll just move this video to the end, select both, and then drag them both to the beginning. And they're in a different order. So again, it's very easy to do. It's you can mix and match things and put them wherever you want at any point. All right. So again, that seems really, really simple and straightforward. Hopefully, just mess around with it a little bit. There's also another way to sort of cut your videos up. So let's say I'm going to want this chunk of video, but I want it to be separate from this side. Like I want it to be split right here, because maybe I want to use this chunk at the beginning of my video. Maybe I want to use this chunk at the end of my video. An easy way to do that is to use your razor. The razor tool, again, usually we've just been using the selection tool. This is the one that allows you to click and drag around on things. The razor tool, though, will cut your video clip into two pieces. And if you move your playhead directly where you want to cut it, all you need to do is get close to that playhead and click one time. It's hard to tell because your playhead is kind of obscuring where you clicked it, where you cut it. But if you go back to the selection tool, you can see this video is now separate from this one. I could move this here, and I can move this one wherever I want. And these are like I don't know, like earthworms. each one of these chunks is actually the entire video. So I could get the beginning of this one back, and I could get the ending of this one back. They're clones, basically. I'm gonna back up here. But basically, you can cut your videos and then move them around like that as well. So there's lots of different ways of sort of getting rid of things or cutting your videos in half. All right. So for your first project, which is the 5x5 project, it's really, really straightforward. You're basically going to be producing a video that is comprised of 5 different video clips that are each exactly 5 seconds long. 5 video clips, 5 seconds long each, 5x5. So you're going to have a 25-second video when you're all done. There are no effects that you're going to use for this video. You're not going to be doing anything other than what we just did here. The idea here is that you are producing an extremely raw video with no transitions other than a cut, other than a video that's just going to play and go directly to another one. We don't want any fading in. We don't want, even if you would like your video to be black and white or something like that, or add some effects, don't. The idea here is that it's super raw and really, really basic. So what you're going to do for this is, let's say, I'm just going to kind of get rid of this stuff. I need a 5-second chunk of this video here. So if I were working on this for the 5x5 project, I would decide, where do I want the video to start? Okay, so let's say it's here. I'm going to move this to here. Great. I got rid of everything at the beginning. I want my video to start perfectly here. I'm going to drag it over to the left. And the way to make sure it's exactly 5 seconds long is now you move your playhead to the 5-second mark. And how do you know it's 5 seconds? Because it's going to say it right here. So I'm going to drag my playhead. Look, it's really hard to get it exactly at 5 seconds. So what I'm going to do is get it close, and then I'm just going to hit my left arrow. I'm a little over 5 seconds, so I'm going to move my left arrow. Now, this playhead represents 5 seconds into the video from the beginning. So now I would just drag this and do that. And how do I know there's another way to make sure your video is perfectly 5 seconds. Mouse over it, and the little box that pops up, look at the very bottom right, duration, 5 seconds long. Perfect. We're going to do the same thing to your next video. So let's say this is it. I'm going to drag it over here. I'm not even going to put it over right next to this yet. I'm going to move my playhead to where I want it to start. I'm going to drag the beginning of that over. Okay, I want it to start right here. Now I'm going to put it next to this other video, and I'm going to move this to, you guessed it, the 10-second mark. 5 seconds for this one, 5 seconds for this one. And I'm going to do that. Of course, I could keep doing that. So let's say I'm going to take this video here, and put it where I want it to be. Move this. Now I'm going to go to the 15-second mark. Oops. Looks like it didn't go all the way. There we go. Again, I can mouse over this. 5 seconds long. Mouse over this. 5 seconds long. 5 seconds long. Again, the idea here is that by the end of this 25-second video, there's this sort of nice rhythm, this sort of pattern of every 5 seconds. It just cuts to the next video, cuts to the next video. Now let's see here. What's this? Drag this one over. Same thing. Move this now to the 20-second mark. I'm just adding 5 seconds on every time. The hard part of this is deciding which 5 seconds you want to keep, really. That's the kind of the main thing. And where do you want to cut things, I guess. What's the next thing? Oh, I'll take this one over here. Get rid of what I don't want. Move it over here. I'm going to move it now to the 25-second mark. And obviously these videos are not these videos are not portraying a specific emotion like your 5x5 project should do. You know, these are all kind of just random videos here. But the idea here is that we just have like a nice sort of rhythm of videos, right? So just kind of every 5 seconds it switches. And I know now, because every single one of these is exactly 5 seconds long, I know that this is a 25-second long video now. Okay. I'm going to save this, hit Command S. So how do I now get this from a Premiere file to a shareable file? This Premiere file is basically, I guess it's like a photo. Think of it almost like a Photoshop file. Like, you can't put a Photoshop file on YouTube or like social media, right? You can't post Photoshop files to Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. You need to turn it to a JPEG, to a shareable file, and then people can open it and see it on any kind of device. The same exact thing happens here. We need to turn our video into a shareable file. Right now, it's a Premiere project. It's a PROJ. That's the extension. That is not something that people can see, on their computers or phones. So what you're going to do is basically, if you look here too, when I click around, see how these this is getting highlighted. Like I can click here, here, here. When you're ready to export your video, you have to make sure that your timeline or your sequence is selected. Just click anywhere inside of this. So the blue line, the blue box is around the outside of this. Then we're going to go to File, Export Media. So when we export media, basically, we're going to get this other box that's going to pop up. Might take a second here. Premiere is a resource hog. So you just kind of have to be patient, especially if you're using HD video, and even more so if your computer isn't super fast. You just got to let it do its thing. Every once in a while, it may crash. It'll just completely shut down, which is kind of rare. But if that happens, you really want to make sure you're hitting Command S and saving all the time, because if your program crashes, you'll at least get back to that point. Otherwise, again, you should be able to get back to the last time it auto-saves. But right here, it's basically like, okay, it's showing you what's going on here. Notice down here, like this is the video. I can kind of go forward and kind of see what's going on. But right here, it says it's 25 seconds. This is the duration of the output file. That's very important. Make sure it says 25 seconds. If not, hit cancel and go back, and you've got to, oh my gosh, look at that ridiculous face. You're going to have to go back and see what you did wrong. So over here is the important thing. What do we want? We want not a QuickTime file. This is what the default format is going to be. We want it to be H.264. H.264 is a super popular compression format. So what it is you can get a really super quality video, and it's not going to be as large of a video. The file's not going to be as large as a lot of these other video formats, especially QuickTime. So I'm going to click on H.264. And basically, everything else should be fine. We want to match the source. So basically, what that means is, if you click here, you can see there's all this stuff, like tons of different formats of different kind of videos for Twitter and for whatever, for Facebook, tons of different things specifically for YouTube. But if you just leave it at match source, it is going to be the same quality as your actual video was that you imported. So that's going to be perfect. Then we want to change the output name. So right now it's going to be named mountain.mp4. The reason it calls it that is because I think mountain was the name of the first video that I dragged into my sequence. It doesn't name it whatever you named your actual project, which is kind of weird. You have to click one time here. And then you can rename it, and you can also tell it where you want to put the video. So I can name this tutorial, or of course I could name it, actually let me just pretend I'm doing the 5x5 video. It wants to save it into a Premiere folder. It's really weird, and it's buried in your computer. You do not want that. I'm just going to just click here and save it to my desktop. And then click save. This is not going to save the video yet. When I click save, all that did is changed where I'm saving it and the name of the video. Moving down here, make sure that export video and audio are both turned on. They should be, unless you accidentally click something. You can click down here and use maximum render quality. That's just going, it might take a little longer, but basically you're going to get a much a higher quality video. And then when you get to the bottom, don't click Q, the thing that's highlighted. It's like, hey, click me. No, don't. That's going to send it off to a different program called Adobe Media Encoder. And if you don't have that installed, it's not going to work. And you don't really need to do that. That's if you want to, like, the only reason to really do that I know of is it sends the video to that program, and it allows you to go back and keep working in Premiere while that video is exporting. It's not going to be a big deal here. It's only going to take a few seconds. Now we want to click export. And again, it's going to take a minute. Just give it some time. The longer your video is, the longer it's going to take. For your 5x5 video, this should not take much longer than half a minute, something like that. Let it do its thing. Okay, so it has exported. Now I'm going to find it. There it is. It's an MP4. That's exactly what we want. When I double click on it, it's going to open in QuickTime, just like my videos did before. It's exactly 25 seconds long. So at every 5 second mark, that's when the video should switch to the new scene. Okay, I'm not going to play the whole thing. You get the idea. So this video is what we want. Now, when you open this video up, and mine is not going to do this, but when you open this video up, especially on a Mac, if it shows up really small like this, that's not a good sign. The larger this video opens, when you double click on it and it opens in QuickTime, the higher the quality is. So if it goes full screen, like it did when I first clicked on this video, that's great. If it opens really small, something went wrong when you were exporting it. It was just not set for the greatest quality. If it opens really small and you go full screen, unlike this video, which looks great, it's going to look super pixelated. It's just like a JPEG at that point. You've spread that video, those pixels out over too much area, and it's going to look bad. So just be careful about that. And that's it. So this video now can be uploaded to YouTube or Facebook or put in the Dropbox, and I'll be able to look at it. So again, for these video projects, you're going to have the Premiere file, right? That's going to be the PROJ extension, and that's what you're going to be using while you're editing it. But once you export it, it turns into the MP4. So hopefully that explains just the basics of video editing. And it's going to be enough to get you through this first project. Again, there's lots of other stuff that Premiere can do. I mean, we haven't even looked at any of the other things. We didn't even look at what happens when you right-click on these videos. It gives you lots of different options because we don't need it yet. We don't want, we want to start simple and straightforward. So again, take a look at the 5x5 project and you know, the assignment sheet for that. Again, the idea here is that you're using 5-second videos to portray a singular emotion, and without any verbal cues. So without somebody saying, "Oh, I'm so upset." No, we want to get that without somebody outright spoon feeding us that information. And again, we want really, I mean, again, this is not what these videos are, what I took these videos for. We want a nice variety of videos. We want different scenes, different, you know, different kind of scenarios. Probably, you know, move your camera around in between these videos so that it's not all from the same exact angle. We want some really nice variety here. Otherwise, even this 25-second video could be kind of boring if we don't have some sort of, like, you know, interesting visual things happening. So that's that. Hopefully this gets you to where you need to get for your first video. And again, be on the lookout for another tutorial with a lot more detail about effects and things like that.